In all societies, older persons were revered and respected for their wisdom and experience. They were influential in decision-making, and their counsel was sought for in times of crisis. However, this tradition has largely discarded, and older persons are no longer enjoying such privileges. In Uganda today, an old person is perceived to be of ill health, dependent, of low income, and with a depreciating asset base. Due to such perception, some older persons have been abandoned by their relatives, which exposes them to a lot of suffering.
When you reach a certain age, definitely become vulnerable. You no longer have the health and energy to do what you are doing, and sometimes because of the socio-economic changes, you find you cannot do what you are doing before, and people who are caring for you are no longer doing the same.
It is estimated that elderly constitute about 6.1%, about 1.5 million of the country's population, and majority are believed to be living in chronic poverty. If the elderly are not empowered to become active and contribute to the national economy, all the national development programs will not have the desired impact. Although poverty eradication programs are in place, they are not necessarily designed to offer social protection for the vulnerable groups such as the elderly. This is why social assistance grants for empowerment SAGE is being advanced as a possible solution to bail out the elderly. It is also seen as a mechanism for fairness and addressing the right of the aged.
Social assistance grants for employment and the Ministry of Gender. It is a good program, and it is the first initiative of the government of Uganda to directly address issues of aging. We have known that for long, older persons have been left out of many government programs, be it health, be it agriculture. I don't think it is deliberately intended by the government to exclude them, but by the nature of their age and maybe the design of the programs, the older persons are left out. Now, in this case, the government has come out specifically, and it is a positive program to address issues of aging. I think it's a good start.
Much as they are getting 24,000 alone to that common man, to that peasant at that age with no other source of income, this 24,000 has impacted positively on their lives, and they're able to support their family members on certain basic needs. They're able to feed their families effectively. They're able to buy scholastic materials for some orphans or children of their grandchildren. Even some have formed a circle. They have put this money, they make contributions of their monthly contributions, either 10,000, and rotate this money among themselves.
This old man is a typical village dweller who has faced all sorts of distress. 71-year-old Mzee Clophas Rugirachanyi, a resident of Kalagala in Chiboga district, was abandoned by relatives at the time he needed them most. Then he was in bad physiological state, suffering a chronic wound on the leg, and his makeshift structure had caved in. He lived in isolation and stigmatization until he was able to receive the Senior Citizens Grant. Nowadays, he receives a monthly grant of 24,000 shillings.
Twamala okwemulugunya ne tugenda ne bampeera ddala emitwalo 16 mu 10. Enkeera ne nzitwala Kiboga ne nzifunamu amabaati mu 7. Amabaati ge nagulamu emitwalo 16 mu 10. Buli baati naligula emitwalo 2,300. Kino kye nasulangamu kyali kirimu nakyo nga kigenze kungwako. Kati bwe nalaba nga kigenda kungwako neeyambisako baliraanwa ne bansibira amabaati ago mabaati, era sinafuna na miti gya kuzimba. Ngenda nkungaanyiriza naye ssente ntono sinazifuna bulungi. Ekyokubiri bwe twamala ne nzigulamu ekyana ky'embizi, nakyo kijja
Although this money appears to be little, it has dramatically changed his life. Having a monthly income has influenced Rugirachani and other aging men in Kalagala village to form a saving revolving group called Kyaterekera Omunaku. This group enables them to save money for their basic needs and paying hospital bills.
Ekibiina kyaffe ky'abakadde kyaterekera omunaku. Kati ekibiina ekyo tufunamu omugaso nnyo, kituyamba kubanga abakadde tuwera 12. Naye buli omu tufunamu emitwalo 12 ne tugikungaanyiriza omu. Kati esente ezo ze nafunako ne zintwala bweyima ku kitanda. Nemalayo esande 2 nali nfunyeeko 7,000 nga abakadde nga tekinnajula ekibiina.
Muzeyi Matiya Kabera, also a group member of Kyaterekera Omunaku, has constructed a new house with support from SAGE.
There was a government that obuyambi bw'abakadde. Era ku sente zino zinkoledde nnyo obuyambi nokusobola okuzimba ennyumba eno. Nanga nga tubona okubanga byenimiramu kutonotono nenyongerako okuzimba ennyumba.
Jaja John Kalima, an elder with disability, is wisely using this cash grant to acquire productive assets as well as improving on his family's standards of living.
Basooka ne batuwa mu mwaka oguwedde. Bwe baatuwa, bwe twazikwata, nalina ettooyi n'ensimisa ettooyi ye fuuti 15 n'engula n'amabaati ndeegisereka n'enteekako abakozi. Omanyi nze sisobola kwetika ekiti, sisobola kwetika buli kantu konna, n'enkolaki ebbaati nankali n'engizimba n'eggwa ettooyi, n'engulamu n'ebyana by'embizi 2 biri waka, n'engulamu n'enkoko n'eziteeka awo.
Sente ezo nze ku lwange sijja kwogerera bangi nnyo, naye nze ku lwange n'amaka gange zinnyamba nakati nzikuumye ngamba nti olunaku lunaatuuka ddi.
Sente zisanyuya bwene zinnyamba. Naye sinyirira kati nyirira. Naye sinywa sukali kati nywa sukali. Nkulaga n'omutwe nankubate sasa nulute. Era ondaba effeesi n'olaba na bwendi z'esente ezo.
Muzeyi Joseph Tindomanyire, a resident of Chanyenya Bin, Chenjejo district, is now dreaming big. After starting a piggery project with the grants he gets monthly, the 71-year-old now dreams of opening land to grow coffee.
Mukutandika kukwata eyinzigi nkanguze ekinumi kwonka kunaleba ngo kinumi kikazara nkuba hati nakiguza nagura mwiki kandi kunkwasire gwa kabiri nakwata eriye yuwarebe ndikwetera no kamera wareba natunga kasheke ndabasa kugura mubazi inyokese nolebe okibira kucyantahirira mpinga mwumwana hati nainga mwumwani ogomba bwo mwani tikujanyamba ninga kuyamba kana kana azinyambire biri mubingi hati ni muri amenyo kugankwera mu kanwa ezimwe nkerago mu igwaro nyukuzamenyo.
Under the SAGE program, government is also piloting the Vulnerable Family Support Grants. This is given to vulnerable households, including child-led families and those led by people with disabilities, among others. Agatha Werinawe migrated from Kabale to Nyankwanzi in Chenjejo district after the death of her husband. Being on a foreign land, this single mother of 5 went through all kinds of suffering as she struggled to feed her family and paying rent for a single-roomed house they occupied. However, the introduction of Vulnerable Family Support Grant has offered Agatha a new lease of life. With the shillings 24,000 she gets monthly, she has managed to buy land and construct a house. She can also afford to feed her children and buy for them scholastic materials.
Ati nyo mu SAGE nyine kuyatandikire nyine bari kuja kuyambitwe nk'abanaku ati nyowe kanyamba ati nkanze tandikire kuzikwata okwezi kwa mwenda ko mwako gwahwire ati naiho kwa mwenda ndi kukwata naiso kwezi kwa mukaga ati kurugoga kakadi kanje bakiba tenagaruka kukwata kurenda kwisana buti konke sente zinabire nkwasireho zikanyamba ahubwo kwankanye nyine fuzi ndineho kugira ki okutaha kandi ndi kubonabona munonga ntine mawe ntine tata ntine munyabuzare we ati ngumani nyayana nimbona aho kutaha aho nindugaho no nimbona okutaha aho nindugaho aho nindugaho kuna rugero nazo mu porotoku atandika kuguma kusiba nkoriro tusete napanje senga ati natamwa abana nagumana itaha ati ko bizire baturebe twabari kubona bana batandika amazina gitu garabamo ati ko twatandikira kwate sente ati nagumana inshoroza nimbika ninguma nimbika ati nareba nazishoroza nyezo byo imbere mbanzire nahise mitwaro 20 ati 20 nagura mwenzi akashaka ati mbena binintera poranya zo kugira kizo kutandika kombe kangunye abana nkahe mu poroti tibine bo wabo tibine ki ubunda abana bija kugira kibashisha ndondaho kubatoza habo ati nagura mwe akatakaka nayombeka narunda bo kunyombekera abanyombekera nisha nataha.
Another beneficiary, Mary Namara, 33 years old, uses part of the 24,000 she receives monthly to pay workers she has to work in her garden and buy school requirements for her children. In
kasazunu seje nyambera abana bange ne basoma nebinde bikwetagisibwa byona nimbetunga nindimisa nimbagura uniform nimbagura ibitabu nizinyamba nebizibu byo munje.
I was able to buy some rabbits. These are the rabbits. I bought, first of all, I bought 2 of them at 10,000 each. That was the equivalent to what I get in 1 month, leaving me a balance of 4,000, going to 24,000. So good enough, these ones reproduce. I just bought them recently, and already the number has doubled from 2 to 8. But unfortunately, there was some dog around which had 2 of them. Unfortunately, I was around. So when this is 6, because 5 of them are females. When they will reproduce, I know I would have made much more profit when they reproduce. Because what happens normally is at least one of them produces 6, at least 6. So where I have about 4 of them or 5 of them, is 6 times 4. That one gives you the number. It's about 6 times 4. 24 rabbits. 24 rabbits. And I intend to multiply them. Before I got stage money, I didn't have this sorghum here because it was very scarce. Much as we have been hit by hunger situations in Cambodia. Sometimes we run short of these materials here. Would you see this here? But when I got sage money, I decided to buy some cans of sorghum at about 3,500 a can. Then when I grow this, I multiply, and already I have enough food. I have enough of it at home here. I'm able to feed my children on this. Even sell some of it if they have to get if they want some pens and pencils.
In all the 14 districts where SAGE is being implemented, elderly people have used this direct income support to obtain credit, improve on their lives in the short term, and better cope up with any demanding events that may befall them or their families, such as sickness, loss of employment, or failed crop.
Ogamba nti yeze najja ddi n'ogenda ku dduuka wali ne weewolawo kiro ya sukaali n'omuti gwa sabbuuni zeni ng'omanyi nti ssente bwe zinajja ojja genda osasule ne bakusaba obuugi ku ssomero ne bakugamba omwana n'akugamba baŋŋambye obuugi omutwalo n'ogamba ngamba bagumiikirizeeko omwezi bwe gunaatuuka omutwalo bwe banampa 2 nja kutulako ogumu kugende ku buugi bw'abaana.
People in the various communities now respect them. The service providers You have never seen the border people and the shopkeepers and the people in the clinics. They now respect them because they know that this old man is going to get money. He's also getting an income. So it has earned them respect. But above all, they are now creditworthy.
Meanwhile, there are some grievances like missing out on monthly payments, moving long distance to access the money, and some claim they were left out, although they were above 65 years old.
In Chiboga district, so far we received the grievances or complaints on distances traveled by beneficiaries to access their grants. Originally, the arrangement was that pay points are located at sub-county level, and we find that sub-county level locations are far from the mainstream communities where beneficiaries reside. And we can give an example of Luamata sub-county, where beneficiaries trek over 12 kilometers to access their grants, and they almost spend half of the grants on transport. Grievances on transport were documented, but this was a bigger issue that the Sage district level was not able to handle. This was submitted to the Secretariat, where the Secretariat had to negotiate because this was a contractual issue. It had to be discussed between the Sage management at the Secretariat and MTN. And the result of this was that we were requested at a district level to establish the appropriate locations where beneficiaries can be paid. And although the original sub-count, in the original sub-counties like Ramata and the Ramata, we have tried to ensure that we reduce the distance, but I think it has not been so effective. But I can give an example where this has worked. For example, in the recently paid sub-counties of Bukomero, instead of paying at sub-county level only, we created more pay points. We created a pay point at the Mwezi sub-county, Mwezi parish. We also created a pay point at Masiriba, and also a third pay point at the town council.
One would think 24,000 shillings a month is very little, but you will find that older persons are using the money to improve their health-seeking behavior, their nutrition. A few have been able to construct houses. A few people might not think that is possible, but when you look at the cost of land in the communities and the fact that when these older persons get the money, they are able to come together in groups and pool their resources together. They buy small plots of land and build adequate houses that are suitable for their communities. These are great achievements for people who never had any form of income before. Now, basing on these results and others that will come from other processes by other actors, the Uganda Social Protection Platform advocates for expansion of the social protection grant to older persons to cover all the older persons in the country beyond the 14 districts of the pilot. Many people would think that Uganda has a very small older persons population, and therefore we need to, as a country, we need to start with bigger populations like the youth and others. But we are of the opinion that because we have a young generation that is actually growing, in the future we are going to have a very large older persons population. And so as a country, it is more strategic to begin thinking about how they can be covered by social protection at this point in time, so that as we plan for the future, as social protection policies and systems are being put in place, then we begin right now to put consideration for universal coverage of social protection for older persons in Uganda. And then this also helps when we are building a social protection flow as the government, as a country, to have somewhere to begin with a program that is cheap cheap to implement compared to others, for example, the Vulnerable Family Grant. And the targeting process is also easier to manage.